Okay, nobody show this movie to Nissan because this is the worst commercial for the Leaf I've ever seen. Hey guys, welcome back to Man Cave Movies, and today we're going to be talking about the new horror movie, Bone Lake. Definitely one that I hadn't heard anything about going into it, but definitely glad that I took the time to go out and watch it. So Bone Lake follows this couple who is taking a romantic getaway for the weekend. They pull up to this big mansion lake house and are real excited to enjoy this weekend, and then all of a sudden, this other couple shows up who also has a booking for the same house on a different app. And it's basically the same setup as Barbarian. It's going in a completely different direction than Barbarian, but when they said that, it immediately kind of evoked, oh, this is the Barbarian opening. So there is that. But there is a lot to like about this movie. I think that it is, in spurts, it is brutal. Not in a Saw type of drawn out brutal way, but just in sort of like, oh, they went there. There is a sequence in the first 30 seconds of the movie that made me squirm in my seat, and if you go see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It definitely kind of shocks you into thinking oh, it's going to be this kind of movie. So definitely going to be one of those kind of brutal movies. But I think that once you get introduced to the main characters of this movie, they are, despite their flaws, they're pretty likable. They make it apparent that these characters are not perfect. These characters have made mistakes in the past, but they are good together, and you want to see them pull through this kind of nightmare scenario that they have been placed in, which I think is sometimes hard to do, especially when you get these sort of romantic horror thrillers where you have to deal with making sure they're likable enough for you to want them to get through, but also have their issues. And sometimes I think when those issues are introduced, you can veer into, I don't really care if these people pull through anymore. They're not really very likable. And I don't think this movie ever falls into that trap. All of the dynamics between the main couple and then this other couple are also very good. Because you believe for a little bit, that's okay, we can kind of coexist with these people. The place is big. It's not really an issue. And so that's a testament to the actors, the character acting. I also think that the movie does a very, very good job of slowly kind of ratcheting up that tension, where you kind of go, oh, this other couple is kind of, there's something going on here. And it kind of ratchets up that uncomfortability and that kind of just icky feeling in waves. And overall, it kind of glues you to your seat, makes you really kind of catch your breath, hold your breath to see what happens next. So overall, lot to like about this movie. Now, there was only one really big issue I had with this movie, and it is a big one, and that is that it falls into the trap of characters in horror movies just making the worst possible decisions, and just, I feel like not decisions a real person would make. When I said earlier that yeah, you can kind of see them staying with this other couple, almost immediately, I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes in, they're doing things where I would just be oh, no, absolutely not. We're out of here. If I would have even stayed in the first place, because that's already kind of a little bit of a leap for a setup, is having to stay together, even if there's not hotels around and stuff like that. It's just kind of I wouldn't do that. I don't think a lot of people I know would do that. And so there's part of that, and then there are moments where the guy in the other couple does something to the guy in our main couple that there is not a shot. Any guy I know, if you do that to him and you interrupted such a big moment in that way, which I won't spoil what that moment is, but it's a fairly big thing that this guy just ruins. And there's not a shot that if this isn't rectified immediately, like I'm not a guy who's like, oh, I just want to fight everybody, but like if somebody did that to me, I'm punching him in the face because the transgression was just so wide that and so big that it's just there's no way. There's no way. And I think that like he hears him out. And I just don't think that most people that I know would really allow that. And so it kind of makes you question the decision making because at that point it's like, oh, decisions are made in this way because we're in a movie and we need the movie to keep going. And so it kind of brings you out of it a little bit. And it gets to a point where the decision making in some areas is so bad that you're almost like, okay, look, I want them to pull through, but if they don't, they kind of brought this on themselves. They kind of deserve it because they had so many opportunities to deal with this situation and they didn't. Now, with all that being said, it's still a kind of dumb, fun horror thriller. I had a good time leaving it. I was definitely pleasantly surprised because I hadn't heard anything about this movie before going to see it. Apparently, it had a festival run last year. Letterboxd has its release date in 2024, but it just released wide this year. And overall, I think that if you don't go to see it at theaters, because I think the showings are already kind of starting to ratchet down on it, if you see it pop up on streaming, I implore you to just stream it. Because some of those movies that you don't really hear anything about and you just watch on a whim end up being some of the best surprises. And I think this one was definitely a good surprise for me. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5.